welcome in here to this Monday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. It is officially Christmas week, but before we kind of mail it in, we got to break down what the Carolina Panthers did this weekend. Summer Hector here in Charleston, Caroline joining us from Greenville, and Rick Henry in Columbia as we are so close to Christmas break here. And Panthers fans can rejoice at least for about the next week. The Carolina Panthers took back over first place in the NFC South after a 23-20 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. I heard it was a rocking crowd out there. I know Ella Groken was there. She's a Bucs fan, but I think she was holding her own out there, getting us some good content out there. But Carolina holding on, and Ransom himself with a late interception to seal this game against Baker Mayfield there. Carolina's rookies really showing out yesterday. It's been a really good rookie class here. And the Panthers proved to go the distance. Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker, was 3 for 3 on kicks, so really helped him there, too. Bryce Young, a good day. This Panthers team said they were excited about the win, but they know Bryce Young always talks about it, the 24-hour rule. He said they got to get going to it, and then they're excited, but then they get right back to it because, well, if the Panthers beat the Seahawks this Sunday and the Bucs lose to the Dolphins, they secure a playoff spot. If not, it comes down to Week 18. It's a rematch of the Panthers and the Bucs. That game will be in Tampa in 2 weeks at Raymond James Stadium. So could come down to the wire. It's like the people who make these schedules knew what they were doing or something. We're going to break it down, but here's some Panthers sound after that big win yesterday.
It feels great, and it'll feel great for the next 24 hours. After that, it's not going to matter. What is this, week 16, 17? That's not when the playoff starts. So there's still a lot more work to be done. There's still a lot more football to be played. Again, 24-hour rule, we'll celebrate this one, but we know that we have to refocus.
Getting this one first, and it was important because it's the next one, to be honest. We know they had all their guys back. The special team, great players over there. We came out on top today, and we'll see them in a few weeks.
Yeah, obviously this was an important game, and like I said earlier in the week, the ball's in our court. We just got to put it in the hoop. So, it's just the first half of the division. So we just got to make sure we just finish out the season.
Just the timing of your first career pick.
Yeah, I think that's God. God talks about how He's going to put you through a lot of trials and tribulations, and at the end you're going to come out better. And this is a great example of that. And I can't wait to get to next week.
All right, so I said it's like the schedule makers knew what they were doing, but not everyone expected Carolina to be in the race right now for the NFC South, let alone in first place right now in the NFC South. Obviously, 2 weeks to go, but Rick, Caroline, where do you see this season playing out for this Panthers team? Rick, I'll start with you. Do you think they get into the playoffs?
You're right about not everyone thought the Carolina Panthers would be in this situation. I certainly didn't, especially because they'd only won a total of 7 games the previous 2 years. And here they are now with a shot at winning 10 games, doubling their win total from a year ago. But here's where I stand. I am impressed with the Carolina Panthers. I'm impressed with the way Bryce Young has been playing, especially in those clutch moments. But still, they have a way of reminding us that they're still the Carolina Panthers. I mean, how do you explain them getting swept by the New Orleans Saints? So I think they're going to lose to the Seahawks, and then it's going to come down to that game at Tampa to end the season. But the Panthers, they have their fate in their own paws, so to speak. All they have to do is win out, and they win the division. They're in the playoffs. So great respect to them, but show me that you're ready to close the deal.
That's a fair point, Rick. I was watching SportsCenter last night, and they were talking about the Panthers on there, and the lead-in to the segment about the Panthers was, well, this team has looked, the worst out of any team in the NFL at its worst. But hey, this team just beat its division rival and has a chance to go to the playoffs, could be a playoff team. And I feel like that really kind of summed up this season for the Panthers. I mean, it feels like it depends on who's going to show up on a Sunday, right? I mean, we watched this team beat the Rams, the NFC's top team, Super Bowl favorite a couple of weeks ago. And then we watched them go to New Orleans and lose to the Saints, another division rival. I know divisional games always play close, but the Saints have 4 total wins, and 2 of them are over the Panthers. So I think a lot of it is going to have to do with that consistency piece and finding it, and having that consistency is something that head coach Dave Canales harps on all the time. I mean, if you listen to his press conferences, it's the word consistency is layered in there quite a bit, but it feels like the consistency piece has not quite yet shown up on the field for the Panthers. We still don't know who we're going to get to watch every single week. But if this team shows up and played like it did against the Rams, like it did against the Bucs this past Sunday, this is a team that really has a legitimate shot. So that Seahawks game is a little scary coming up next week, but potentially having a real shot to make the playoffs for the first time since 2017 with, 1 or 2 wins in the next 2 weeks is a pretty big deal. That's been a long time, Summer. 8 years ago? I mean, that's crazy. I was still in high school in 2017. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I was a freshman in college. I remember watching that in a college dorm the last time they, were in the playoffs. So it is, like you mentioned, Dave Canales has been so even-keeled, and you got to give respect to what he's done here. I mean, a lot of people had their doubts going into this season, too, about is he on the hot seat, what's Bryce Young going to do, and what he's done with this team is pretty impressive, especially saying, I don't think this is the most talented team by any means in the NFL. I also don't think it's the strongest division in the NFL, but nonetheless, what they've done with this team is pretty impressive. Caroline, I know you mentioned some of those big wins. It's been a roller coaster season for Carolina, some of the big ones. Rick, I don't remember, though. How did they do against your Cowboys? Forgot.
What do you mean you don't remember? And that's all I've been hearing from Carolina Panthers fans. Yeah, they lost
I
with
forgot.
me in the house, along with my son who lives in Charlotte, and he's a Panthers fan. And at the time, my Cowboys hadn't discovered defense. Rico Dowdle ran all through and around them. And, my Cowboys have been a big disappointment to me, officially eliminated from the playoffs. And so while I'm looking forward to next year, the Panthers fans, hey, they're concentrating on this year. All they have to do is win. And I'll be pulling for the Panthers, even though it'll sting a little bit because of what they did to my Cowboys. I think producer Nick is calling for a timeout.
I had to get that in there just in case. Yeah. I had to get that in case we didn't have time.
I'm going to remember that. Remember, you are my former intern, so I'm going to invoke some privileges on you that may keep you around for a little longer.
Oh, no.
All right.
Oh,
That's going to do it for this opening segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We're calling a timeout. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. It's almost Christmas break time for all of our basketball teams. Gamecock men play later this evening, but Clemson men wrapping things up on Sunday right before they get to the holidays and get a little bit of a break before New Year's Eve. They were at the Well here in downtown Greenville for the Greenville Invitational, hosting Cincinnati there, playing yet another Big 12 team. And this game really, it was an interesting one. It was the definition of the tale of two halves, really. If you turn the game off after halftime, you were probably shocked to see what the final score was and how close the game was. The Tigers led by as many as 27 points in the first half. They hit 8 threes. Even the big men were getting in on shooting from downtown. I mean, they were really that the ball was going in the hoop, and it was contagious, and you could tell. And after halftime, though, a little bit of a different deal. I don't know what happened. Brad Brownell said it was really just a difference of we were scoring and they weren't, and then they were scoring and we weren't. It was basically that simple, I guess. And Cincinnati came out, opened the second half on a 10-4 run. They eventually ended up closing that gap little by little, got it down to 1 point in the final few minutes. Clemson, though, ends up hanging on 6 points, I should say, 3 clutch layups for R.J. Godfrey in the final 2 minutes, and then Clemson senior guard Dylan Hunter hit 4 clutch free throws there in the final 10 seconds to go ahead and give Clemson the win. So they win it 68-65, and here's head coach Brad Brownell talking about the tale of two halves and kind of what went on there.
Yeah, it's we've played a lot of good halves against the high major teams. We haven't played a lot of full 40 minutes great, but I think some of that is it's hard to do that. The other teams are good too. Alabama's pretty good. BYU's pretty good. Cincinnati's good. And so their coaches are going to make adjustments. Their guys are going to make a couple shots that they miss sometimes. Maybe your defense wasn't as good, but they're not making it. And then I don't care what you say, when you're down 20 or 15, it's easier to shoot when you get an open shot. It's not like you feel like, oh my God, I got to make this. You're already down 20. You're down 15. You're a little looser. And all of a sudden a couple go in, and it changes the momentum of the game.
Well, even with the momentum from Cincinnati, Clemson hangs on. A little reminiscent of that BYU game at Madison Square Garden about a week or so ago, when Clemson actually ended up blowing a 20-plus point lead, losing on a last-second three. Since he got off a last-second three in this game, it would have only sent it to overtime. It was a miss. Clemson ends up winning it 68-65. So they survive the Bearcats and they escape the non-con with a 10-3 record heading into ACC play with a little bit of momentum there. Rick, what do you think of this Tigers team so far? Do you think it maybe says something about them to be able to stick out a game like that, or maybe says something else that they're, giving up a couple games with 20-plus point leads?
I tend to concentrate more on the fact that they've been giving up these leads. You heard Coach Brownell talk about it's a little easier to shoot and make buckets when you're 20 points down instead of 20 points up, because there's more pressure on you, especially when you start thinking, hey, we've seen this chapter before where we've lost a big lead, so you start thinking about it, you tense up, but they need to find a way to play a complete 40-minute game so you're not in this situation. And we saw it against BYU, which was just a total collapse. They lose a 20-plus point lead. They fight back, and then they lose it at the end. And now you go into your conference play, and you have some good teams in the ACC. So if they can't get this settled out, they're going to have like an up-and-down conference season and could be on the bubble for making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree, Rick. I think this point in the season is always the time, too, with college basketball, where fans love to jump to conclusions. So I'll be interested to see, once these guys start gelling together, quite a few, newer guys, how they start clicking. But also at this point, you'd like to see them start to mesh a little bit better. But like you said, that ACC schedule isn't going to be any easier. So seeing them run through that gauntlet is going to be interesting. I do think they're leaning on some, experience here in these guys once they start to get going. Ace Buckner was really impressive yesterday. So if he can get going and they can kind of keep that stability, I'm not too worried about Clemson, but I think time will tell right after this Christmas break how they get going in ACC. Caroline?
Yeah, absolutely. And this team, as in need as ever of that break. They've got a couple guys that they're trying to get back to health, and Brad Brownell said they got a couple guys with the sniffles, so maybe that's playing into it a little bit as well. But they will be back after 10 days off on New Year's Eve in Syracuse, opening up that ACC schedule. So definitely one to keep an eye on. But we got more basketball to talk about, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We talked a little basketball in the last segment, and we're going to continue the hoops discussion, starting with the Gamecock women. The third-ranked Gamecock women, they are 12-1 with one more non-conference game to play. They will host Providence on December 28th. Then they will open up SEC play. They will open with Alabama, and that will be on New Year's Day at 2 p.m. And they just wrapped up a little two-game trip through the state of Florida. Now, yesterday, they walloped Florida Gulf Coast by the score of 105-43. Then on Thursday, they took it to South Florida, 103-44. In that game against South Florida, Joyce Edwards scored a career-high 34 points. Sunday, she had 29. Now, when you look at that box score, you see that the starters are playing some really good minutes, some heavy minutes. even though when they're up by 40 or 50, you're going to have a starter or two on the floor. That's because the Gamecocks are down to 9 players now because of injuries, but they've been able to roll against these non-con teams. The one benefit, you have a lot of players getting some beneficial minutes, and also they're getting used to playing with all the other players on the team instead of like, hey, you have the second team come in, you've got the first team resting. Everyone has to be out on the court working together. And here's Don Staley after that North Florida win.
We have no choice. We only have 9 players that are healthy. So there's no choice in that. Somebody that plays significant minutes is always going to be on the floor. But at the same time, we really aren't looking at the score. We're actually looking at just how disciplined and playing to a standard, for 40 minutes. And we haven't done that probably until today. I thought we were pretty locked in for 40 minutes. There were very little just lapses defensively when it came. I'm most proud of them because even the ones that don't play a whole lot, they were locked in and they were disciplined. So we're making progress.
And talk about getting some good minutes in. 8 of those 9 players that have been available or played in the past 2 games, 8 of the 9 got in at least 20 or 19 minutes. That's some good court experience that could come into play as they get into SEC competition. Summer?
Yeah, no, for sure. And hearing, her talk about who's struggling, you only got 8, 9 people out there. It makes it a little more impressive, too, for this Carolina team. Hopefully they get more healthy. But Joyce Edwards, I think it was a career day. Was it 2 games ago or the last game?
It was Thursday, yes, 2 games ago.
Okay, yeah. I've been super impressed with her. I think what she's doing and we've already seen her make a splash, but it seems like she's really coming into her own and working more as a leader with this team, too. So I think that's been really special to see her kind of take over this team. And I'm excited to see what Joyce is going to do the rest of this season. Caroline?
Yeah, me too. I mean, I know that they're down a couple players. It's not, an easy spot to find yourselves in. But when you have players like Joyce Edwards and Medina Okode and those types of players that are putting up the points that they're putting up, you feel maybe those losses a little bit less, or feel, the loss of players having only 9 players to go a little bit less, because you have players that are filling in those gaps. So the Gamecock women on a roll, of course. So is Clemson women's basketball. The Tigers picking up their 4th straight win over North Florida. Really bad week for these Florida teams playing South Carolina teams. That's a direct quote there from producer Nick. But anyways, Clemson women's hoops getting a big time win. They beat North Florida 84-62. They had 4 Tigers finish in double figures in this one, led by Russ Agustinante. And guys, Russ she is hooping out there right now. She finished with 19 points. That's a team high. She hit 3 threes, and she actually leads ACC women's basketball right now in 3-point percentage. She's averaging about 45% on the season right now, which is pretty solid, right? And Mia Moore chiming in with 18 points of her own. So this team really finding its stride. They got 1 more game left in non-conference play against Chicago State, but head coach Sean Poppy reflecting on what he's seen from his team and what he's really liked so far in the last couple games.
We're starting to get shots that we practice every day. There's a difference. I think I've been saying that in a lot of these post-game, that early in the year, we got shots that were open, but it was just not in rhythm. I think we're starting to figure out, when we're going to get them, how we're going to get them. It'd been nice. I thought Hannah got 4 wide open ones today to make a couple of those. But ultimately, I think what we're doing is we're finding confidence within the groups we're playing together. We're finding who plays well together, what we need to run, and where that balance is, and then ultimately it turns into just getting shots you practice.
Well, hey, that's part of what non-conference play is, right? To kind of test yourself before you really get into the gauntlet of your schedule. And like I said, only 1 non-con game left for the Clemson Tigers. That'll be against Chicago State on the 28th. So the women's team still got a couple days before their Christmas break. Then Clemson's off until January 1st. They'll travel to Virginia to open up ACC play. And guys, that's when things really get fun. But we're going to take a quick time out here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll have a little bit more for you coming up right after this. Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily on this Monday afternoon. Rick Henry, I know you had a little something to say before we head out here, so I'm going to let you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. Well, this is the last day that Summer Hector will be with us here on Palmetto Sports Daily. She is going to be moving away from Charleston to continue her career and her life. It's been great being associated with you since, 2018, when you were my intern?
Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I think 2018. Back at South Carolina. Crazy.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching you grow and develop over the years into a really solid sportscaster. So I wish you all the best. Good luck.
Oh, my gosh. Stop it. Y'all are so sweet. No, thank you guys so much. I've learned so much from all of you guys. Rick letting me shadow tag along with him back in college as I was clueless was way more helpful to me than you probably even realized. So I appreciate you, Rick, and all of you guys, Caroline, Carmine, everyone on this show. Kevin, I've already given my spiel to here. Julia's been amazing over there, too. Y'all have been awesome to work with, and I'm so excited to see what everyone does in their future and to follow along. And there's Julia. Oh, my gosh, hi.
I had to pop in for your last show, too. Just wanted to say hello and thank you for everything, and it's been so fun working with you over the years, and you know, it's not the last you'll see of me, so just the last you'll see of me today.
I was gonna say I will surely still be around bugging all of you guys, but thank you guys so much. You guys are seriously some of the best in the business. Viewers, keep watching them. They are incredible. They are even better people off camera for sure, and all the people behind the scenes, producer Nick, all the people directing. Y'all have been amazing. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Charleston. Thank you, South Carolina. Everyone have a great holiday.
All right. Happy holidays to you and everyone else.
Thanks,
We'll
Summer.
miss you.
I all love y'all. Thank you.